silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away with it.
I've made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue society.
Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thanks for watching us today, whether you're in Louisiana, Mississippi, or Houston watching us, or whether you're on YouTube all over the world. Today I have a guest that I knew not too much about. I knew he was our new head of our police department, our chief of police in Baton Rouge. His name is Chief Murphy Paul. So thanks for being so gracious
Absolutely.
as to sit with us today and we want to tell your story and tell the Baton Rouge story now.
Okay.
The chief is from New Orleans. He has 26 plus years in law enforcement.
That's correct.
Being down in New Orleans. He's also a guy who has a nonprofit, Work to Give.
Work out. Yeah.
Work to Give. What a nice name. And that's what we all should do. I say leave a path of goodness for others to follow.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And when you find a person like this, when I started reading about him at 5 a.m. this morning, I say, this is a very spiritual guy.
Yeah.
But he's a very smart guy. He has a criminal justice degree from Loyola. While his term down in New Orleans, he also went to Post, the FBI Training Academy. Is that
National
correct?
Academy.
National
Okay,
Academy,
National
and you're a
Academy.
graduate and an instructor for the FBI Post program. Is that correct?
Well, I was a post FBI instructor.
What does Post mean?
It's a police officer standard training course. It's it's under the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement, and they set the standards by which all police officers in the state of Louisiana, the minimum standards that you must have.
Now let me ask you that, since you bring that up, Chief. Are our standards different than Texas, different from Mississippi, different from New York State?
Yeah, each state has their own standards. I mean, the core curriculum that's required is probably is about the same, but there's a different amount of hours, and it varies amongst different states.
And you always knew you majored in criminal justice at Loyola.
That's correct.
So you always knew that you wanted to be what? A police officer, a chief of police, a lawyer? What were your plans?
No, when I was young, I mean, I wasn't very fond of law enforcement because of the New Orleans police. That they have a history with dealing with certain parts of the community in New Orleans, so it wasn't very fun. So that wasn't in my plan. It just kind of happened. My mama told me to get a job and get out the house, and I took the test, the civil service test, and I actually started off as a levee board police officer in the city of New Orleans, which is known as the lakefront police.
Oh, okay.
And it was through that I really developed a love for the job, and being a public servant, and then I wanted to be what I believe was one of the best, most professional agencies, and that was state police. My first positive experience with law enforcement was with a Louisiana state trooper. I think it was K&B. It was a grocery store.
Oh, K&B, yeah, a drugstore chain too, wasn't it?
And I
Yeah.
bumped into this
Yeah.
trooper, and he said, "Excuse me, sir," and I was like, "This guy just called me sir."
Right.
It just.
How old were you?
Oh my gosh, I was young.
I told him he must have started at 10 because he's got 27 years in law enforcement. He's been here a year, and he looks about 30 years old. But
I like
that's
that.
not the
Let's
case.
stick with 30, yeah. But so that was my first positive experience, and then when I came in law enforcement, Louisiana State Police always had this reputation, being a professional agency.
Yeah.
So that's
where New Orleans had a lot of crime. Still, we're still bothered with that in all the state of Louisiana, especially our two largest cities, New Orleans being the largest and Baton Rouge being the second largest. And we're going to get into that. We're going to show you a little clip from some of the things that this chief has taken us to a higher level. I would say, being an old programmer myself and starting off in systems with IBM, that we're going to show you some of the things. Let's briefly talk about some of that, and then we're going to get into some of the real structural things we're doing here in Baton Rouge that you are leading and our mayor are leading to help stop the violence in the state of Louisiana and in Baton Rouge specifically.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the systems you brought in here as we see the video. Just tell me why and what made you want to expand. They had some systems, but not a real-time center as we're going to here in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think, one of the things when we took over, I came up with the 6-point strategy, right? Where we looked at critical elements that we wanted to look at. When you first come in, being an outsider coming in, a lot of it was just assessment. Let me see what's going on, looking at existing programs. This is a great police department. Listening to the the leaders in the organization, and part of that 6-point strategy was based on 6 key elements. One was resources, right? Looking at all of the resources that we have within the police department, particularly police officers who are in what we call administrative positions. Is that the best use of our resource? One example of that is bicycle registration. You know, we had a police officer working bicycle registration. Now, I'm not saying that's not important,
right,
but with the crime in Baton Rouge, I think we can utilize that resource better. So it's repurposing that position and looking to see if we can have a civilian to do bicycle registration. We're making that part.
And have you made that change, or are you working on making that change?
We've made that change. We went before the city council. There was a law that had to be changed, a local ordinance. We got the support from our city council, and we're moving forward with that using some technology and creating an app that's going to do that for us. Right. So looking at the resources, can we do a better job? The next was analytics and intelligence. You know, we believe that there's a small group of people in the city of Baton Rouge that's responsible for a majority of the crime.
Didn't I read about 7 to 8% of people?
6%. That's 6%. Right, less than 6%.
Yeah.
And so if we can focus on that 6%, right, and not look at everybody in a certain community as if they're part of the problem, right, when we're policing. Right. And
let me just ask a question. Of that 6%, are they mostly in certain districts, or of that 6% who create most of the crime, who are responsible? Are they geographically? You do know where most of them are located. 80% of them.
Well,
would that be a fair assessment?
That would be when you look at your high crime areas, right? Those areas are those what we call those bad actors who are responsible for the violent crime. They come from different areas, but yes, we are seeing a high concentration of our violent crime in certain areas. 70802 and 70805 is where we are having most of our violent crime, particularly homicides. So you do have to put
more police officers over there in those areas?
Yeah, presence does make a difference. Yes. You know, what we're doing now, we're trying to find out, let the data tell us where we need to be. Yeah. So we are creating, as new technology that you're going to show, that we're in the process of building out and taking that information, that data, and pushing it out to the men and women on the ground, the boots on the ground, so that they can have that data. It doesn't make no sense for the chief to have it if the boots on the ground can't have it and use it. Right. So we're taking an analytical approach to that by using technology, helping with our strategies when it comes to patrolling, and we're starting to see some wins with that. So that's something that
you showed me a lot of downs.
Absolutely.
When I was looking at the system with the chief before we started the show, it's very impressive to see that how some of the shootings are down over the 90-day period. A lot of your elements that you look at, your key issues are down.
It is, and you know when all the good things don't always make headlines that we're doing, and it's unfortunate in this month particularly. That's
why we're trying to show you today what you're doing.
Exactly. You know,
I was going to start this off as a segment. I said, oh no, when I started reading about you and came in here, we're going to do a full show on the chief.
We do, but the crime problem is bigger than the police department.
Yes,
and
we talked about that earlier.
Yeah. So the 6-point strategy that we talked about, those elements, and I want to make sure that I stay on message with it, because you got the analytics and the intel. Accountability was the next one. Part of crime when our police officers gain the trust of the communities that we serve, right? When we have that trust where people trust us to call us to cooperate, then that plays a role in reducing crime.
Is that the old, what we call community policing? Back in the day when you watch the old shows and everybody, he's on the beat and he goes into the store, everybody knows his name.
Right, and he knows everybody.
Or her name these days.
He know the good guys, he know the good kids from the bad actors who are individuals.
That makes a difference. Trust.
It does. It's about building relationships.
That's right.
It's what it is. It's building relationships. So when I come in that community, I know what individuals are, those guys that are involved in drugs.
And you're not looked at when you walk in with a badge and a uniform on as a bad guy. You're more looked at as a good guy. I want to talk about BRAVE, because everybody knew Baton Rouge Area Violence Elimination Program. Let's talk about truth versus that. But let's go through the other elements you want to talk about on here.
Yeah, so basically we had the resources, the analytics and intel, accountability, making sure that we are being held accountable with our body camera program, with policies.
And every policeman, you told me, does have a body cam now.
Every police officer has a body camera now, and then being transparent with that, and making that information available to the public when there is a concern from the public involving a use of force incident. Training was so important. You know, one of the things we looked at was an assessment of our academy. We actually have, as part of our National Public Safety Partnership through the Department of Justice, we're looking at a consultant right now who's going to help us. We pushed our academy class back. It was important for us to see not just what we're training, but how we're training and who's doing the training. So we want to make sure that our trainers are in alignment with where we're going as a law enforcement agency, specifically when it comes to fair and impartial policing, community policing, and we're also looking at procedural justice policing, which is going to be a main part of our training curriculum. Not
A
only
lot
in the
going on
academy,
since you've stepped in here January 1st, 2018.
not only in the academy, but in our in-service, because you have yearly training that
Right.
all police officers are mandated to go
What
through.
we're going to do is take a short break, and we're going to come back. I want you to tell me how many policemen you actually have, and what some of the statistics are, women versus men in the police force. And then we're going to talk about what we're doing to help stop the violence programs in Baton Rouge area.
Okay.
Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White.
Oh my gosh, you Dianne Andrews?
Yes, I am.
Hi, I'm Donald. I love your show in Black and White.
Oh, and you have my books. You have all three. Third Man Out by Fiction, Gumbo for the Heart. We have 25 individuals. Oh my God, you have the latest one. I just put this out a month ago.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Do you enjoy them?
I do.
Oh, thank you
Can
for
I
being
please have
such
an
a big-
autograph?
Oh, sure. To Donald who?
Don Spears.
Okay, Donald.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for keep on watching Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. We're still sitting down with Chief Murphy Paul, not Murphy Brown off television. I got it right this time. Who's a very interesting spiritual man, and there's a lot to unlock and to know about this man. We're going to start talking first about the BRAVE program, the Baton Rouge Area Violence Elimination Program, which is defunct, is what I know. And Truth has taken its place in 2017.
Yes.
But there were some good things that BRAVE did, like decreasing the gangs in this city. I think it started off at 67 in 2013. So tell me, why did that one be eliminated, and what Truth does that's different, Chief?
Yeah, well, so I think what happens, you know, because there was some negative publicity that was presented as part of the BRAVE, so there was some negative association from a public perception standpoint on what BRAVE is. So what Truth did is they learned from that, right? We learned from some of the mistakes that were made.
Now, what
as
is
part
Truth?
of
Are those
BRAVE.
initials too, as BRAVE was? Is Truth TRUCE?
Yeah, I think so.
What does that stand?
Truth was actually a name that came from the community. Yes, the director of Truth actually asked some of the participants and some individuals from the community, and they came up with truce. And what truce is, it's to create a truce between these groups that have differences and beef with each other.
Right.
So that's where the word
Like the
truce
Crips and
came
the
from.
Bloods, the
Right.
police and the
Absolutely.
civilians out in the
Exactly.
public. Let's
Exactly.
make a truce and
Truce,
build a bridge.
whoever
We're building
have
bridges.
differences, like
Yeah.
even internal,
Yeah.
right? Truces with yourself.
Yeah. It's a good
So I
name
thought it
that
was
they
I
chose.
really do. I
Excellent.
think it was a
Yeah.
really good name, and it came from the community.
That makes it even better.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. And you know what Truce does? Look, Truce provides alternatives. It's an opportunity to stop the culture and violence by giving those individuals who we believe are involved in that activity another way out. So there's job placement, job opportunity, education initiatives, canvassing the neighborhoods, trying to break down these barriers in community police relations, and encouraging those young individuals who are involved in group violence or any type of violence to paint this picture on the finality if you continue that lifestyle. So
Do you go to prison and get a lot of people are reformed in prison
Yeah.
that want to help the youth coming up and tell them get out of these gangs. Do y'all ever bring the people over Truce? Do they bring gang members in who may be in prison
Absolutely.
and help them talk to the youth?
Yes.
Yes.
So that is part of it.
Yeah.
Part of our call-ins when we sit down with these individuals, and we have guys who've been there, who's spending time in jail. One is a lifer, and he gives you his personal testimony on the mistakes he made. We have community leaders, we have law enforcement leaders, we have faith-based leaders. Everybody we think can touch the hearts of these young men to get them to change their life. If we can reach one, then well done. And that's what Truce does, and it gives the opportunity to give these individuals other options,
Right.
so that we can try to interrupt this cycle of violence.
Right. We talked briefly in break, and we spoke on, it's bigger than the police. It's bigger than the pastors. It's really, and I've spoken on this on my show before and in some interviews I've done. How do we get to that little girl who has no self-esteem, who thinks my body is not good enough, so I will give it away to a person? As we know, between the ages of 18 and 40, HIV/AIDS, this is one of the #1 places in the country for unprotected sex because of the AIDS statistics and HIV positive statistics here. Are there any programs, and that's bigger than you, but that's something that I'm thinking about, how do we get to that little girl? And I'm trying to do something myself with that, because I do a crusade. This is like a ministry to me, I say, trying to help. And I've been doing things with the chief before you out in the community, and we do a lot of shows on how can we help the community, and that's what this is about. But it sounds like you're well on the way from what it has been. I know that there are a lot of monies coming to you all. You work on getting grants.
Yeah.
You've gotten a grant from Jeff Sessions, excuse me, for the Middle District of Louisiana, which Baton Rouge got $650,000. 2.5 million given to our area here, the Middle District, from Jeff Sessions and from Donald Trump, the president. And I think every district in the country got monies for stopping the violence programs. Tell me about those grants, and are they being used with Truce and getting back to community policing, helping you recruit other officers that you're trying to do now?
Yeah, we've been a recipient of several grants, that one as well as our Project Safe Neighborhood grants. And what we realize is, look, this is bigger than the police department, this issue. But specifically when you talk about it, is to create a gun crime intelligence center. And what it does is it gives us an opportunity to hire individuals to have a response team that responds directly every time there's a shots fired incident, okay? So part of that is gathering intelligence on the scene, canvassing the neighborhood, talking to, trying to identify witnesses, but it also requires the expediting the casings and anything that's associated with it, and there's an intelligence background.
The casing of the gun, of the bullet.
That is correct.
Is that the bullet?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's correct. The casing from the bullet, and making sure that information is expedited, so that we can determine if those casings or any forensic evidence is tied into other shooting incidents, both non-fatal and fatal shootings. So there's an analysis portion of it. There's a prosecution side of it, prioritizing those cases. There's part where there's a review of cases to see if they meet federal requirements, right? So that we can look at charging those individuals federally. And part of it is education and just getting guns off the street. We have too many guns off the street. So we're excited about that program.
People tend to think that most crimes, especially in the neighborhoods, are created by people with legal guns, but that's not the case, right, Chief? Most guns of killings in America or in Baton Rouge are really with illegal guns. Is that correct?
Well, the bad guys are gonna find a way to get
That's
guns.
right. They're gonna get a gun. They're
Absolutely.
not going into the store with their IDs and saying, "Hey, I want to get a gun."
We through burglaries, through people leaving them in their car, through straw purchasing.
What's straw purchasing?
Where someone purchased a gun for someone who's a convicted felon, and they purchase it for them and then give it to them, and then
or don't you just have people,
stolen.
crooks selling guns? That's their thing. They sell guns to
They
people who
obtain
do
them
bad
illegally
things.
in turn, right.
Yeah.
So, and part of education is teaching gun owners how to secure your weapons. Being smart, keeping them out of the reach of kids. We just had a 13-year-old that killed a 6-year-old.
Right. Terrible.
Yes, and that 13-year-old shouldn't have access to a weapon.
That's right.
So it's teaching gun owners
and
how
now
to
they're
be
going to have that
responsible.
carry them. You got one dead 6-year-old, and then the 13-year-old will never be the same the rest of
Absolutely,
their life.
you got the two families are torn apart because of this. So it's teaching gun owners to be responsible and try to lock their weapons up.
Do you all publicize all the events that you are doing in the public?
We do. We put them on they're on our website.
On the website,
on our website, our Baton Rouge Police website, on Facebook, Instagram, and
people
on social
can go
media.
to that and try to find out things that they may be looking to be involved with.
Absolutely.
Or to attend.
Yeah, we're involved in so many events. I get my weekly reports on community.
I know I had a hard time
events.
getting you to pin down for this interview.
Yeah,
we're going to take one more little brief, and then we're going to come back and talk about how you can recruit more people and what kinds of people you're looking for in this Baton Rouge Police Department.
Absolutely.
Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. We're still learning more about the Baton Rouge Police Department and specifically about this man sitting next to me, Chief Murphy Paul. Tell us, let's talk about the population of Baton Rouge is about 51 to 53% minority.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have 631 police officers in your police department here. What percentage is minority, black, and how many women do we have in this police department?
So women is around 56, at about 9% of our workforce of female officers. Around 33% African American, so probably around 35%, 36% minority representation.
Now, we talked a little bit about the decree, which has been around a long time, which your police force should reflect your population of your community.
Yes, ma'am.
Which this one, and I'm sure a lot don't around the country. What kind of recruiting programs do you have, Chief, to try to get more minorities and more women involved in the discipline of the police department?
So we're beefing up our recruiting and looking at our strategy, making sure that we are reaching out to minorities. We have our Go BRPD website. That's GEAUX. GEAUX.
Oh, Go. Okay,
yes,
yeah. I think I've seen it advertised on TV. Yeah.
So GoBRPD.com. Yeah. You know, we just advertised at the Bayou Classic for our recruiting efforts, so we can get from under this consent decree. But we've seen improvement. You know, more than 50% of our last academy class were minorities. So we're seeing an increase. But
what about women?
No, not as much.
We're the majority of the world usually.
We have to do a better job of reaching our females that are out there to encourage them to be law enforcement. But I think two things are going to help with that. One, getting our pay where it needs to be, and giving our police officers professional level pay is going to help with our.
How do we rank here in Baton Rouge compared to New Orleans, the Shreveport, the rest of the state, or the rest of the country?
Probably around 30 to 40% less than when we look at state police, when we look at the New Orleans Police Department.
Really?
That is correct. We're that low in terms of our pay. New Orleans makes probably about 40% more than our officers. So we have to do a better job in getting the level up, and we think that's going to help with our recruiting efforts. But I also think we got to be a little more creative and tap it into that next generation with the technology advances that we have in the police department.
And you bought a lot of them here.
There's a lot of technology, but focusing on that.
Are you hiring IT? You may could get somebody. He's looking for IT support. I think. I don't know if you're hiring outside.
There's some positions that we have to change, but I think there's so many great things that we have in the Baton Rouge Police Department. Some great things we're doing. We have to do a better job of telling our story and messaging that and making it attractive for that young generation.
And women may be tough anyway, because a lot of women may not be as interested in carrying guns. But we're getting women who go into war now more and more. So carrying guns and fighting every day. Yeah,
but and this is just me. I think being around here and listening to all the talent that's within this organization, not just here, even when I was at state police. I think a lot of females bring a different a skill set to the table. I think they are better at de-escalating situations and
negotiating. We've had to do it with you all our lives.
Yes. So we have.
It's a negotiation. A partnership is a negotiation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So we have to do a better job, but we're excited about 2019 with our next academy class and our recruiting efforts. We're calling for a new recruiting list of beef. Our recruiting section.
And it's not a lot of jobs out there, so I think a lot of college students may be interested in coming to the police department because it's hard.
That's right.
So many people are still living at home with parents because they can't find a job.
Yeah, We're participating in job fairs all over. But you know, it is challenging when you're at a job fair and we're saying what we have to offer, and there are law enforcement agencies right next to us at the same job fairs offering some of the same things and pay $20,000.
How do you get that solved? How do you start working on a plan to get that started?
So we've already
that
done that.
State
Absolutely.
legislature?
So we've hired a consultant. We actually have a consultant that's been working on a pay study for the Baton Rouge Police Department. We have a meeting within a couple of weeks to look at the final draft before they have the final report. And I think that's the start, because now I'm going to know the exact numbers. We're going to be looking at agencies our size, agencies around the state. Specifically, Louisiana State Police and New Orleans Police Department are two agencies that are going to be compared in this study.
Even though we're smaller than the New Orleans
That's correct.
area,
But in terms of, we have some of the same issues. When you look at all of the police departments in the state of Louisiana, we're probably close in line to New Orleans when it comes to crime, when it comes to some of the issues they deal with as a major metropolitan city. So when I get that report, then I'll have the exact numbers on where we need to be. Then it's up to me to work on how we're going to find the funding to
fix this problem, start fixing it, which may take a little while. But I know if anyone can do it, you can, Chief. Is there anything you would like to leave? We're going to start wrapping this up. Leave with the public out there?
You know, look, Baton Rouge Police Department is a great organization. You know, our men and women out there putting their lives on the line every day, true public servants at heart, and there's a lot of change going on here. We're excited about the future of the police department, but what we want the community to know is that we cannot do it alone.
That's right.
You know, there's when I talk to New Orleans, when I look at what's going on in Chicago and other areas, in Baltimore, there's a code on the streets that's called Stop Snitching.
That's right.
And what we want the community to know is, look, that code was made by a criminal.
That's right.
It was a criminal who made it up so that you won't tell on him, so he don't go to jail, so he can continue his felonious activity. Right. And when we as a community know the bad actors, know the guys who are committing the homicides, know the guys involved in these shootings and robberies and burglaries, and we say nothing and we do nothing.
Right.
What if our family member is the next victim?
That's right. It's back to see something, say something.
Absolutely.
But it's easy for us to sit here and say it when it's hard when you're sitting in that community, right next to that philandering, violent person.
Exactly. But look, there are programs out there like Crime Stoppers where you can call, give us information, and you will remain anonymous.
You can do it anonymously. That's what people need to start doing.
And you can remain anonymous, and you can still, and we will follow up on those leads. But I think we really have to start looking at it different. You know, we know that in some of these cases, those individuals have communicated their intentions or their threats prior to committing the act.
Right.
Well, as a family member, loved one, a friend, do you really love that person? You have an opportunity to prevent or stop that act from happening.
And an obligation.
Absolutely.
And, well, Chief, it's been wonderful talking to you, and I see why you get your cup refilled at Healing Place take some of the stress off every Sunday, and why the people at Maxwell, when you were in training, said, this is not what you need to be doing. You've got better skills and more enthusiasm and a record. Try out for that Baton Rouge Police Department. So we thank that friend of yours who told you to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sure you thank him every day.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being with us here at Dianne Andrews in Black and White. If there's anything else we can do to help stop the violence, let us know.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
I made a living in very dangerous.
Dianne Andrews in Black and White.